it's me again. And let me point out my beautiful artwork is now up on my wall. Kudos to my young viewers who sent this in. We have this lovely bird artwork. And I think it's terrific, so I hung it on me wall. So thank you. Now you can see the artwork with every show because it's terrific. It's great. Hang it up. The whole rest of my house has lots of artwork in it anyway, so it's great. My artwork, other people's artwork. Whoever wants to put artwork on my wall, put artwork on the wall. I think it's terrific. So today is Sunday, April 24th, 2022. And this video in particular kicks off a series of videos I'm going to do over the next few weeks to jog people's memories, to remind people of things, and talk about different things I've touched upon before in previous videos, as well as add some new things. Like today's all new stuff. But in future videos, we're going to retouch upon previous videos I did and why they're pertinent going into the future. Not everybody can remember every video I did. If you do, kudos to that. But this is more or less like the kickoff to that as we approach the deadline for spinning out into Oilco, or when we're going to at least start to spin out Oilco in June. Like I said, so we have these steps to do, and as we do these steps, like one, the audit is done, I'll erase number 1. Once SEC says okay, I'll erase that. When spin out into Oilco, I'll erase that. If MMTLP goes bye-bye, I'll erase that. All that stuff. With the ultimate goal of the sale. But we're going to talk about different aspects that I've touched upon before. Today's new material, today we're going to talk about why Meta and more or less the oil assets in the preferred share, otherwise known as MMTLP. That's what I will refer to it as MMTLP because it does have a name other than the Series A preferred share, which is a mouthful. And so MMTLP, that's what it's trading under. If you have old Series A preferred shares, like you've held on to them since the Torchlight days, I have both. Ones I've held on to, ones I bought. They're all under the same nomenclature of MMTLP, so that's why I refer to it as such. I'm not under any legal obligation to not refer to it as MMTLP, so I will. Today we're talking about legal obligations. We're going to talk about Meta and why until the spinout happens, more or less Meta and the oil asset and MMTLP are more or less joined at the hip. Earlier in March, the beginning of March, Metamaterials CEO George Palacaris tweeted about how they want to do a presentation and they're executing a plan. We are almost at the 2-month mark past that date. By Mother's Day, this is going to be 2 months in. And there's been no presentation yet. Some people will argue that the presentation is more or less just kick the can down the road and string things along. And it's with that, I'd like to remind people that CEOs will also say that they have no control over the day-to-day action of the stock, and the day-to-day action of the stock is not really a reflection of the performance of the company. With that, we are left to scratch our heads and turn to bird ladies for any type of breadcrumb to lead us on a trail of clues. Why haven't we heard a presentation yet or seen a presentation yet? Why haven't we seen anything else updated? What's the status? Are we still drilling or not drilling? I didn't ask George if there's any plans for drilling. I said, can you confirm if this is correct or not, that drilling will begin on June 1st. I didn't say Meta or Oilco, I just said drilling. George responded that Meta itself has no plans for drilling. But I took that as, okay, Meta doesn't. Of course Meta doesn't. They plan to spin out by then. So maybe Oilco does. That's how I took it. If it's not a Meta-based stock, then they can't really talk about it. They can only talk about Meta. The Series A preferred share, which is the only legal obligation that Meta had to the Torchlight shareholders. And then MMAX. So we're left with, well, what's going to happen? Why haven't we heard any presentation? Why is this dragging out? Are they purposely dragging it out? The answer to that, and I've been snooping around. Oh, Bird Lady snoops around. Like I said, I snoop around. I make calls. I talk to people. I look for clues. I say, who do you know? Once information can be very valuable, and it's quite the commodity. Along this journey, I went digging for information. Why hasn't there been a presentation yet? Why has everybody been so hush-hush? Why has every press release lately just been talking about the disclaimers and the risks about the preferred Series A when it didn't do that last year? Why this year? What's different? I don't understand. So I went digging for answers, and I found some clues. It seems that due to certain circumstances that date back to June 2021, Metamaterials has been under investigation from the SEC. And they will continue to be under investigation from the SEC until the spin-out of Oilco. This is why we haven't seen a presentation yet, because there's been no dates listed for the Oilco spin-out yet. We have yet to see a presentation. So I think what's going to happen given these clues with the timeline is we're going to get maybe a PR that talks about like specific date, like we plan, like, hey, the auto is complete. SEC says it's okay. We're going to spin out into Oilco now. Once you get that, I think we're going to start to see a lot more stuff come about. Once we're going to spin out to Oilco. Here's the new dates. A lot of people will tell you that there's not going to be an ex-dividend date and a new record date for these shares. I'm under the school of thought that there will be a new ex-dividend date and a record date for these shares. Else, how can they reconcile all the shares that have been around for the past, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. By then, 7 months. Else you got to reconcile these shows that have been around for 7 months. They're in street name, a lot of them, yes, but you got to go to the street, aka the brokerage, the street corner itself, and ask about the shares. Once the PR comes that gives a more specified date on Oilco, you're going to see a lot more, I think, PR release, and then we're going to see that presentation, right, about the oil assets. And as I talked about in the video, the secrets of the Oro Grande, maybe they'll talk about the aquifer that's underneath the Oro Grande. I will be talking more about that subject in a upcoming video. Again, this is new information. So it seems due to certain past events with what was said before the actual merger happened, and this was said right before an offering of shares, there's been an ongoing SEC investigation. With that being said, teams of lawyers have been brought in, and everybody at Meta will tell you, will cite a legal disclaimer. If you call it Mark from Meta IR, he'll cite legal disclaimers now and just talk about the risk. Why are they doing this? This is like Madame Umbridge from the Ministry of Magic comes over and takes over Hogwarts and puts cats on the walls and makes you study for standardized testing. This is kind of like that, where the Ministry of Magic kind of takes over Hogwarts and it makes it not fun. So everybody's just shouting legal disclaimers. And I'm kind of my ears perked up at the whole Gardner Wade, the man with two last names. Gardner Wade tweeted about a Star Trek and Carl Urban's character, and then George Palacaris is oh yeah, I'm a huge Carl Urban fan. I love Carl Urban. He was in Lord of the Rings. He was in Star Trek. You got Warwick Davis, who is in Star Wars and Star Trek. I don't think Warwick Davis was in Lord of the Rings, though. That'd be cool if it was one person in all of those movies. But you got a Warwick Davis. He's pretty cool. I like Warwick Davis. For those who don't know, Warwick Davis was Wicket the Ewok in the movie Star Trek 4, Journey to the Humpback Whales in Marin, California. Warwick Davis also played the character Val Kilmer in the movie The Wind in the Willows. I have a very bad habit of doing that. So one time I had this roommate, and I was watching the second Fritz the Cat movie. Now, if anybody of you know about, Ralph Bashki movies, right? If you're edgy and if you're a big fan of, if you're an aficionado of animation, you'll watch the Ralph Bashki movies, like he did The Lord of the Rings. It was supposed to be at least a 2-part series, but Master of Rotoscope Ralph Bashki, he did Fritz the Cat, and then he did a second Fritz the Cat movie, which had this big motorcycle scene that was like a la Easy Rider. And so I had a roommate come in, my one roommate at the time, who I did a whole subreddit on. He came in, and he's like, "What are you watching?" And I looked at him, and he had no idea. And he wasn't like as movie savvy. So I told him I was watching Easy Rider with, Peter Fonda and Jack Nicholson and, what's his face? The guy who's in Blue Velvet. Not Kyle MacLachlan, who's like my favorite actor, but like the scary guy in Blue Velvet. It was him. And I forgot his name. And I told him it was Easy Rider, and he honestly believed me. And then he got really upset, and he came at me yelling several days later, saying that it wasn't Easy Rider this whole time. Okay, getting on track. So it seems that the Ministry of Magic has infiltrated Meta HQ, and nothing's fun there right now. And they just everybody there just cites legal disclaimers, which is quite interesting. I think, though, once this spins out, it'll be better. All this, like, MMTLP is a distraction. A lot of that's going to go away because it's going to be Oil Co now. There'll be no more MMTLP. It'll be great, Hooray. People won't have anything to complain about in that regard. 2, a lot of the legal stuff will go away in Meta. Hooray. And 3, Meta can finally get the oil and gas off the books. Hooray. Again, let me stress, this is why George keeps stressing it. Meta can't be an oil and gas company. They don't want to be an oil and gas company. Some people like to say, no, Meta will be an oil and gas company. And I say, no, they won't. They don't want to be an oil and gas company. Yeah, this asset's on their books. They want to get it off. Why do they want to get it off their books? Let's get into that and what I have investigated. The Meta likes to say how they're a green energy company. And they're sustainable because they don't have to use rare earth minerals. You can make semiconductors out of all sorts of things. Like maybe cats. I don't know. You can make semiconductors out of all sorts of things because the little metal bits are so tiny and interwoven. Now maybe they can conduct electricity better. Hooray. As a result, Meta likes to say that they're sustainable. I'll say politically sustainable because they still have to use plastic and you still have to mine out those minerals. So, even though you can put them on whatever substrate you'd like, glass, which is, I think, a little bit better. But politically speaking, they are sustainable. There's the true sustainable and a political one. I'll cite the political one. They're politically sustainable. And as a result, when you have politically sustainable stuff, you can apply for politically sustainable grants from governments. Like Canada, who likes to wave about how green and sustainable they are. You have Canada and America. We have the new Green Deal. They want to be a part of this new Green Deal. That's why they also have an office in Pleasanton, California. I don't think it's because of their close proximity to Silicon Valley. More or less because California likes to tout itself as the green state. And they're always offering incentives for green type of businesses. Meta wants in on some of that money. They've come this far and they've been largely government funded. Okay, that's the thing. Like, they went from being government funded private entity doing research and development, and now they're a publicly listed company. And I've talked about the struggles that they've had on the business development sides, which I've been, critiqued on heavily. When I mention the weaknesses tends to be on the business development side. But this is because they come from like a largely government-funded R&D type of company. As a result, that's what they know best. They know how to get grants and write for grants. Great. If you have a person writing for grants and they like it, awesome. I mean, Meta would also like these grants. It's the new Green Deal and the Canadian grants, but they can't get these grants. They're a big bad oil and gas company, more or less, politically speaking. It comes down to politics, sadly. So as a result, that's why Meta needs these off their books. If Meta can get these off their books, they can get this grant money, this zero interest loan money. Who doesn't want a zero interest loan? So it's in Meta's best interest to get spin out the oil and gas asset. Your next question is, well, why haven't they done it yet? And again, it comes down to, I think, this audit part, which they mention, is holding them back. I don't see them as like, oh, we just started the audit. Again, like I said, I see this more as like a secondary compliance type of audit. Maybe they did the audit, and because of the whole SEC investigation, the SEC is like, well, you better do a secondary compliance audit, just to make sure there's no conflict of interest or whatever. And they go, okay. And that's what they're doing. Again, like I said, I've written grants. I've incorporated nonprofits and for-profits for people and different entities. And especially with the nonprofits, to get that nonprofit status. If anytime somebody related to your current nonprofit has like something to lease, you have to go through a hoop jumping expose to show that it's not conflict of interest, and you're not gonna use this nonprofit as a way to extort and pay yourself money for leasing out the stuff you have. It's a whole thing. You have to jump through some hoops. So once this audit came up and it was this late in the game, I don't think it was the first audit. I think it was like this whole hoop jumping thing that the SEC has proposed, again, because of the ongoing investigation. And that's why you have like maybe a secondary audit. This is what I'm drawing on as my own personal experience and the clues that I know, such as investigation and, legal teams, and everybody's required to just say legal disclaimers. And it's like Harry Potter when the Ministry of Magic takes over Hogwarts. And Dumbledore's labeled a criminal or something. I forgot. One of my favorite movies is actually Wizard People, Dear Readers, which if you haven't seen it or heard it yet, you must. It's not technically a movie. It's actually a soundtrack you play over the movie. It's like a 2-part CD. There's also a YouTube video, or you can download the sound. I just have the downloaded sound. And like, we'll cue it up and we'll keep the video and be like, 1, 2, 3, go. And when you push play at the same time, and it syncs up at certain points. Sometimes we can get it synced so well, it's hilarious. I love Wizard People, Dear Readers. Today, it comes down to that I think that the audit is a secondary audit, and it's a compliance for the SEC because of this investigation that's going on until spin out. We're not going to get a spin out presentation or an Oracle presentation until official PRs are released with dates, I think. Like more solidified dates. And this investigation has started with, certain events in June. As a result, everybody's on lockdown hush-hush until the spin-out of Oilco, because you don't want it to look like you're facilitating certain things. It's not because they don't want to tell their short, keep the plans from the shorts a secret. It's more or less so you don't look like you're doing something. Even though it's your not intention, You know, you don't want it to look like you're doing something, which the SEC would raise an eyebrow at you about. And Meta does want this off their books because then they can get that sweet grant and 0 interest loan money. Hooray! Okay, guys, that's it for today. And then, like I said, this kicks off a whole series of videos that I'm doing. I'm talking to Tony, aka Market Moves. I'm going to do a video about him, about the potential of MMTLP. But I'm going to have other things such as the restate my aquifer video, the secrets of the Oro Grande. We're going to talk about a bit about taxes again. We're going to talk about more value of the Oro Grande, what's there that I've talked about in other videos. I'm going to bring it back up. And again, if anything happens along the way, I will continue to make videos about, any news and updates. Okay, guys, I will see you soon. Goodbye.